In the distant year of 2063, most of Earth's landmasses have long been submerged by floods, and only 2 pieces of land remain. The competition between nations for land and resources has intensified. However, this crucial maritime outpost is manned by just 4 soldiers. One day, while casually noticing some rolling beans on the table, a soldier realizes a terrifying secret: the outpost is severely tilted. Worse still, the next group of replacement soldiers is overdue by 3 months, leaving them without fresh water and with little food remaining in the fridge. To survive, the 4-man team can only eat minimal portions, maintaining just enough energy to stay alive. According to regulations, replacements should arrive every 2 years, but despite the passage of time, no new soldiers have arrived. Just as the group begins to despair, Sullivan suddenly spots something unusual. He quickly calls the captain, who orders Cassidy to check the radar. To their surprise, a ship has been spotted not far away. Sullivan excitedly thinks it's the replacement ship, but the captain orders preparations for combat. Unsure whether the ship is friend or foe, Engineer Baines hears the alarm and rushes out. Cassidy continues trying to contact the ship via the radio but receives no response as Sullivan and Baines prepare the cannonballs.
Sentinel to vessel, respond.
The captain changes his mind and orders Sullivan to investigate the ship in a small boat. Despite being confused about why he was chosen, Sullivan follows orders without question. As he approaches the ship, the markings on its hull become clearer, and Sullivan realizes it is indeed the replacement ship they have been waiting for. He shouts repeatedly but receives no answer from his comrades. Sensing something wrong, Sullivan loads his gun and climbs aboard the ship's bow, using the radio to report back to the captain. However,
on deck, no sign of life.
The radio begins to malfunction, and Sullivan shuts it off for safety, an action that nearly costs him his life. Once aboard the ship, Sullivan finds the bridge in disarray, the equipment damaged, and a water cup that suggests the ship has been abandoned for months. He continues searching and finds plenty of food and 4 sets of personal protective gear. He is certain these were meant for the 4 soldiers coming to replace them, but the soldiers themselves are missing. Sullivan is left clueless as to what has happened. Meanwhile, the captain continues calling Sullivan over the radio but gets no response. Fearing Sullivan might be in danger, the captain enters the control room, pulls out the nuclear weapon keys hanging around his neck, and asks Cassidy for another key. With both keys inserted, the nuclear weapon system activates, and the captain tries once more to contact Sullivan. When there is still no answer, he prepares to launch the weapon. At this moment, Sullivan's radio crackles to life, and he is terrified to hear the captain's voice.
No one here.
Relieved, the captain orders Sullivan to tow the ship back and cancels the missile launch order. However, after removing the key, the captain does not return Cassidy's key. Suspecting her hesitation earlier in the emergency could have delayed an important task, Sullivan returns towing the ship, and upon learning that he nearly lost his life at the captain's hands, he curses under his breath. However, as captain, his primary responsibility is ensuring the survival of his team. The only hope for their return is the broken-down replacement ship. The captain takes the ship's log and works tirelessly to restore its navigation system. Fortunately, Baines manages to repair the engine, and the group can finally return to land. Sullivan eagerly informs Cassidy, but she responds coldly, stating that every action must be approved by the captain. The next day, the captain makes an odd decision. Despite being a soldier, he spends his days studying furniture construction. Strangely, when on duty, he enjoys a drink with his comrades. After 10 years at the outposts, waiting endlessly for replacement soldiers, the captain seems to be growing restless. Eventually, they discover a ship sent by headquarters. However, the ship is mysteriously abandoned, and its hull has been severely damaged. Thanks to Baines' mechanical skills, the engine is repaired, and Sullivan sees hope of returning to the mainland. But when he goes to tell the captain, he is met with a serious order: disassemble the ship's components and wait for official orders before leaving the outpost. Sullivan is confused and argues with the captain to assert his authority. The captain threatens him with a gun. Fortunately, Cassidy intervenes, and the captain agrees to discuss the matter calmly. To ease the tension, the captain pours drinks for everyone. After some discussion, the captain orders Sullivan and Baines to take a small boat to headquarters, report the situation, and request new replacements. Sullivan is reluctant to leave Cassidy. Sullivan tries to convince Cassidy to return with him, but Cassidy refuses, hinting at some unspeakable reason.
I don't love you, Sullivan. If that's what you want to hear.
Sullivan, heartbroken, leaves without looking back. Sullivan immediately began packing, Eager to leave this sad place with Baines as soon as possible, the night before departure, the captain reminds the team to rest well for the 14-day journey ahead. But in the middle of the night, alarms sound, and the radar detects an unidentified ship. However, the captain doesn't wait for confirmation and immediately orders the cannon to fire. The first shot misses, landing in the water.
Ready? Fire! Miss.
As Baines prepares to fire a second shot, Sullivan realizes with horror that the ship they are attacking is their own replacement ship. Baines is stunned, and the captain pulls out his gun, ordering Baines to fire. When Baines shakes his head, the captain shoots him in the ear. Though Baines remains still, at that moment, Sullivan fires the cannon and hits the replacement ship. Baines walks toward the captain's gun, but Cassidy knocks the captain out to prevent a conflict. The three lock the captain in the storage room, and Cassidy retrieves the two weapon activation keys. The next day, Sullivan brings food to the captain and asks why the replacement ship was destroyed. The captain reveals a secret. Based on his analysis of the ship's course, he suspects a traitor among the four. The ship altered its course just 16 kilometers from the outpost and later stalled. This raises two suspicions. Why did the radar fail to detect the ship so close? And why did it change course? Despite the captain's reasoning, Sullivan remains angry about the destruction of the replacement ship, so he decides to keep the captain locked up. The next morning, however, something shocking occurs. While fishing, one soldier finds a dismembered human hand caught in the net. Terrified, he pulls the net, only to discover it is the captain's body. Sullivan is horrified, recalling how the captain had jumped out the window when he delivered breakfast. At that time, he thought it impossible for the captain to escape in such a vast ocean. Now, he realizes the captain's death proves the existence of a traitor. Sullivan remembers the captain's earlier suspicion and decides to consult Cassidy. Together, they plan to investigate the site where the replacement ship was destroyed. Baines unexpectedly volunteers to join them, unaware that this decision will cost him his life. Before they leave, Cassidy unexpectedly kisses Sullivan, sensing the danger ahead. The two take a small boat to the wrecked ship, where Sullivan spots the captain's body and realizes the traitor is either Cassidy or Baines. He recalls the close bond he shared with Cassidy and focuses his suspicion on Baines. Sullivan checks Baines' military records and discovers that Baines had a history of mental illness but was recruited due to his mechanical skills. Sullivan now firmly believes Baines is the traitor. Thinking about this, he immediately began to worry about Cassidy's safety and anxiously picked up the binoculars to check on the two of them. Soon, a small boat appeared in the field of view, but there was only one person left on board, since the other person was wearing a raincoat and a hat. Sullivan was not sure who it was either. When the person returns, it turns out to be Cassidy, who claims Baines died in an accident. Sullivan, however, knows the truth. Later that night, he reviews the duty logs and confirms that Cassidy was on duty the day the replacement ship arrived. The next morning, Cassidy wakes to find Sullivan gone, and no matter how much she calls on the radio, there is no answer. Fearing the worst, Cassidy rushes to the control room, only to find Sullivan there. However, she is too late, as Sullivan has already activated the self-destruct system. Realizing there's no more room for lies,
What are you doing? I don't understand.
Just stop.
Stop what?
It's over.
Cassidy admits to being a spy sent by a hostile nation. She had sabotaged the outpost's positioning system and led the replacement ship off course. After that, taking advantage of the low visibility due to the fog that day, she killed all four people on the rotation ship with a pistol before they could see who she was. Her ultimate goal was to get the nuclear weapon key from the captain. She thought she would succeed today, but she never expected to be discovered by the person she loved most. Cassidy admitted that after spending so many years together, she had truly fallen in love with Sullivan, but at the same time she was also torn because she could not forget the mission entrusted to her by her country. Despite Cassidy's pitiful crying, Sullivan, who had already been hurt by love, pressed the final confirmation button. At that moment, it seemed as if the whole world had come to a standstill. However, after a long time, nothing happened. It was only then that the two realized a long-kept secret. There were no nuclear weapons here at all. It had all been a lie to deter hostile forces. A long-planned operation had ended ridiculously, but at the moment, they could only continue to stay here, because they could not leave the post, without the disturbance of outsiders. Perhaps the two could start again, and live shamelessly in this paradise-like place.